Hello everyone, today we are going to study Class 10 History, Chapter 1, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. This chapter explains how the idea of nationalism developed in Europe and how people began to see themselves as members of one nation rather than subjects of kings and emperors. Let us begin with the year 1848. In this year, a French artist named Frédéric Sourieux imagined a world made up of democratic and republic nations. He expressed this idea through a series of paintings. One of his most famous paintings was called The Pact Between Nations. In this painting, we see people from different nations walking together in a long line. At the center of the painting stands the Statue of Liberty, which represents freedom. In one hand, the statue holds a torch symbolizing enlightenment, and in the other hand, it holds the Charter of Human Rights. On the ground, broken crowns, royal robes, and other symbols of monarchy are lying scattered. This shows the end of monarchical rule. People are moving away from monarchy and walking toward liberty and equality. Above them, Jesus Christ and angel are shown blessing the people, suggesting hope for a new democratic world. Through this painting, Frédéric Sourieux expressed the dream of nationalism, democracy, and freedom, which was spreading across Europe. To understand nationalism properly, we must now go back to the French Revolution of 1789. Before 1789, France was ruled by an absolute monarch. The king held all political power, and ordinary people had no rights. The king's word was law, and people were treated as subjects, not citizens. This system continued for generations. In 1789, the French Revolution broke out and completely changed this system. The revolution ended the rule of the monarchy and transferred power to the people. Several important changes took place. A new tricolor flag was introduced to represent the nation. French was declared the national language so that people could feel united. A national anthem was composed and people took oaths to the nation. The Estates General was replaced by the National Assembly, whose members were elected by citizens. Internal customs duties were removed so that goods could move freely within the country. These changes helped people develop a sense of collective identity. For the first time, people began to think of themselves as citizens of France rather than loyal subjects of a king. The French army carried these revolutionary ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity to other parts of Europe. In 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte came to power. Although he ended democracy and became a dictator, he introduced many reforms that strengthened the idea of nationalism. In 1804, he introduced the Civil Code, also known as the Napoleonic Code. This code abolished feudal privileges and established equality before law. It gave people the right to own property, improved transport and communication systems, and standardized weights, measures, and currency. Guild restrictions were removed so that traders and craftsmen could trade freely. At first, people welcomed Napoleon because wherever he went, he destroyed feudal systems and brought reforms. However, soon they realized that Napoleon was ruling in an authoritarian manner. He did not allow political freedom, imposed heavy taxes, introduced censorship, and forced people to join the army. As a result, people across Europe began to oppose him, and his image changed from a liberator to a tyrant. Now let us understand how nationalism developed in Europe. In the mid-18th century, Europe did not consist of nation-states. Instead, it was divided into large empires ruled by monarchs. One such empire was the Habsburg Empire. This empire included people speaking different languages and following different cultures and traditions. Because of this diversity, people initially did not think of themselves as one nation. European society was divided into aristocrats and peasants. Aristocrats were wealthy landowners who enjoyed social and political privileges. They formed a small minority but held most of the power. Peasants were poor farmers who worked on the lands of aristocrats and had very few rights. After the Industrial Revolution, a new social group emerged known as the middle class. This class included industrialists, businessmen, traders, and educated professionals. The middle class played a very important role in spreading nationalism. They believed in liberal nationalism. Liberal nationalism stood for individual freedom, equality before law, and government based on a constitution. They demanded the end of autocratic rule and wanted representative governments. However, liberal nationalism had its limitations. Voting rights were demanded mainly for men who owned property. Women and poor men were excluded, which led to dissatisfaction and protests. Economic problems also helped spread nationalism. Traders faced many difficulties because they had to pay taxes at several borders and use different currencies. In 1834, Prussia formed a customs union called Zollverein. This union removed trade barriers, reduced the number of currencies, and promoted railway networks. This helped in economic unity and strengthened national feelings. After Napoleon's defeat in 1815, conservative forces came back to power. Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria defeated Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo. They signed the Treaty of Vienna in 1815. The treaty restored monarchies, brought back old social orders, and imposed censorship to stop revolutionary ideas. Despite this, revolutions revolutions continued. The period from 1830 to 1848 is known as the Age of Revolutions. In France, the July Revolution removed the Bourbon king and established a constitutional monarchy. Belgium gained independence from the Netherlands. In Greece, people fought against the Ottoman Empire and became independent in 1832 with the help of European powers. Nationalism also spread through culture. Artists, poets, and musicians used art, poetry, and music to awaken national feelings. This cultural movement was called Romanticism. German philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder believed that language and culture were the true spirit of a nation. In Poland, Russian rulers tried to impose the Russian language. Polish people resisted this by preserving their language and culture. This shows how language became a powerful weapon of nationalism. Economic hardship further increased unrest. During the 1830s and 1840s, population increased rapidly, unemployment rose, food prices increased, and poverty spread. In 1848, a major revolution broke out in France. King Louis-Philippe fled, and France was declared a republic. Universal male suffrage was introduced, and the right to work was guaranteed. In the German regions, middle-class leaders formed the Frankfurt Parliament in 1848. They drafted a constitution for a unified Germany, but the movement failed because the king rejected the constitution and used the army to suppress it. Later, German unification was achieved by Prussia under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck. Through wars with Austria, Denmark, and France, Germany was unified in 1871, and Kaiser William I became the emperor. Italy was also unified during this period. Leaders like Mazzini, Cavour, and Garibaldi played important roles. By 1861, Italy became a unified nation under King Victor Emmanuel II. Britain followed a different path. Its unification was gradual and peaceful. England dominated Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, forming the United Kingdom. English culture and language were promoted, often suppressing local identities. In the 19th century, nations were visualized through female figures called allegories. France was represented by Marianne and Germany by Germania. These symbols helped people emotionally connect with their nation. By the end of the 19th century, nationalism became aggressive and turned into imperialism. Powerful nations began conquering smaller territories. In the Balkans, the decline of the Ottoman Empire led to conflicts among European powers. These tensions finally led to the First World War. To conclude, nationalism helped end monarchy and form modern nation-states in Europe. However, when nationalism turned aggressive, it resulted in conflict and war. If you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe of Topo YT, and keep learning.